Thank you, Michele and Clara, for introducing in such a way the conference. Thank you, all of you, for coming, and I'm very happy to present some of the work we have been doing during this long period. And especially I'm proud of the fact that despite the specificity of, we are on a sector analysis, and inside the sector analysis we are speaking about one of the activities in the gas market. So this renewed interest for storage, I think that encouraged me also to present some of the issues. Okay, so the overview I'm going to give you is a little bit an introduction to, let's say, to the book, but not only. And in order for all of us to also have a ground to follow during this day, I'm going to present the main facts and figures of the gas storage market, with special focus to the countries that in fact are analyzed in the study. So in fact we have been interested in France, Germany, Italy and the UK, and we are going to see that this choice has been not done by chance, but because they represent some specific aspects of the gas storage services and regulation. In fact, even though, of course, any of the four countries presents an stretched relationship, we have focused just for, at least for the purposes of developing models and analysis. So we have specified a specific topic for any country. So commercial storage will be the issue for Germany. That goes together with a comparison between Germany and the UK. In fact, storage and market power has been addressed in the chapter devoted to France. So we do not raise the point in Italy, to be neutral. Optimal regulation of access to storage with capacity constraints is a model that is discussed with some consideration about the Italian market instead. And finally, storage and security of supply with a model that is a theoretical one, but is then calibrated on the UK data. So, which are the main points, similarities or not, between those countries? So, the starting point of our analysis was to understand, as also been summarized by the previous speeches, the fact that at least there are at least 4 points worth analyzing today after the deregulation of the gas market. The first point that comes to our mind is that exactly, so the gas deregulation has started let's say officially in '98 with the first AC directive on the regulation of liberalization of gas market, but still we are lagging behind 10 years after. I'm wondering whether there is a price for natural gas in Europe that can be really a reliable indicator of the health of those markets. As a consequence, storage, that is the primarily mean to react to price differential, is going to suffer from this lack of market signals. Not only we have a lack of market signals, but also a lack of storage capacity in general. So this is a problem which is in some sense due also to the geological characteristics of something that we cannot change with economics, but still, since, as we are going to see, there is a new wave of investment, I think that there has been a stagnation of the sector during some years. Now the dynamics is going to change. From the legislative point of view, the discipline in the storage sector is the only case in which the European directives have not put a clear direction toward the idea of course, opening the access, but the way in which this access has to be made available to third party is led to the choice of countries. So there is no idea of imposing regulated, either negotiated third-party access. So this has created a kind of heterogeneity in Europe. Some countries have opted for regulated access, as it is the case in Italy. It is partially the case in France, but all the others have a kind of negotiated access with some particular rules also that may apply. And finally, something that is also on the newspaper, security of gas supply. So here we are completely in the debate. You know that we have just ended in January one of what we call gas crisis. Europe is characterized by a huge flow of gas imports. So, of course, there should be something that ensures security of supply. And if you have read in the newspaper, you know that, still we are in the doubt also that the gas crisis is going to happen again. President Barroso says that he's not sure that Ukraine is going to pay for the gas. So if we have a crisis now in March at the end of the winter period, when gas reservoirs are probably more empty than what they were at the beginning of January, it could be something difficult to face. So security of gas supply is also one of the core issues that we have analyzed. So why those countries? First of all, in terms of storage capacity, you see that Germany, France, Italy, and UK represent nearly 60% of the available storage capacity existing today. So it represents a huge part of the market, at least if we can call it like this. Those countries are also big gas consumers. And except UK, that is the only producer, all the others import gas in a substantial part of their consumption. And for this reason, if we look at the ratio between annual consumption and storage capacity, we see that the ranking of those countries in continental Europe is quite important. Of course, here we also see the fact that Eastern European countries are not better positioned, and it is also the reason why they suffer so much when Russia is going to blockade the gas flow. France, Germany, and Italy so differ also from UK exactly for the fact that since UK is a producer, he has historically had less interest in developing storage capacity. But we will see this is not something that can be, so it's something that here we are going to question in the book. In terms of patterns of consumption, production, and storage, well, we retrieve the basic facts of the gas market. Gas consumption is quite completely driven from the climatic difference between winter and summer. So consumption presents in all countries the peak during the winter time, and then it goes down toward the summer. And of course, storage is the most economical way to use this differential. So we are going in all the country to store during summer and release gas during winter. All the countries are characterized by a steady or declining production. And so the difference between production and consumption is ensured by net imports. The four countries, of course, have similar patterns. If we look, for instance, at the figures between Italy and France, we see that in terms of consumption, we will see some detailed statistics afterwards. We are quite similar, but the peak, for instance, in France are more pronounced because gas in France is mainly used for home heating. In Italy, for instance, we have also electricity generation, so this is going to smooth a little bit the relative importance of peak of demand. UK is going, has also the possibility to fine-tune consumption with a little bit of flexibility in the production. What they do is the so-called beach swing. So they have also this kind of flexibility instrument that the other countries, of course, do not have. There is some flexibility in the import, which is, depends on the way the contract, the take or pay contracts, and for instance, is something that during this winter has been used by Italy and France and Germany as well to face exactly the, to counteract the problem with the Russian gas flow. Germany is also a big user of gas. You see that in terms of peak, we have, in all countries, in fact, we have a peak of demand in 2006 because here we remind the previous gas crisis, the one that has hit European countries in the winter 2005-2006. So this has, as we can see, this had huge consequences in all the countries. And this also is going to underline the fact that since gas consumption depends on climate, we see that there is a correlation between the peak of demand of all European countries, and this is going also to create a problem, potential problem with the security of supply. So if we have something that is either climatic or geopolitical that is going to involve the all countries at the same time, this is what we can call really a gas crisis. Production, as I was saying, is declining everywhere with different intensity, but the pattern is similar in all the country. You can look at the figures that are underlined here at the beginning, and both so we have peak and minimum production that are going to follow in the same pattern. Notice also in particular minimum production is going to decline very rapidly, especially in France. When we look at consumption, what we can, how we can summarize is that, of course, we can have difference between what here we have the comparison between 2006 and 2007 on Eurostat data. We were unable to give you the 2008 figures because we are waiting for the last month to be updated. What we see is that because of this peak in 2006, 2007 has been a relative good year in terms of, consumption. It's a normal year, also in terms of average temperatures. So a year that has, of course, prepared in some sense, so the gas storage, the storage has been replenished. And well, this phenomenon has been particularly strong in France and Germany, less in Italy and the UK. But the minimum consumption is increased, so we are in perspective in a world in which gas consumption is going to become progressively more important. So the problem again of gas dependence is also something we have to look at carefully. Net import, again, it depends. The only country that is a little bit different is UK, thanks to the production. But still, you know that in the last year, we had also this important phenomenon, such that UK as a producer has become a net importer. So the historical pattern in which UK was self-sufficient has not been changed. For several reasons. They have invested in electricity production from gas. So in the wave that has characterized the liberalization of electricity market, gas consumption has represented the main impact. So they have increased the consumption of gas in a very strong way, and so the consequence is that now the interconnectors not only serve to export gas towards continental Europe, but also to receive gas from Europe, and in fact from other countries, if it is the case. Storage capacity and concentration. So Michele has said the word about market power. So, of course, storage is a special facility. So, in principle, as we are going to discuss later on, it cannot be duplicated, but still, depleted reservoirs and aquifers are the main storage facilities. And historically, they were the place where incumbents have invested. And for this reason, so storage system operators are mainly the branch of storage services of ex-incumbent. And we can see that the share of storage capacity by the ex-incumbent is huge in France and in Italy. Germany and UK have different patterns. Germany is much more splitted. And UK, so there is Centrica Storage that has, for those who know the history, in fact, Centrica is now a really independent operator, and is the only case in which there is an auction of storage capacity. So it's a middle example between this idea of concentration. In any case, if we look in a competition perspective, I think that Agustin will say much more on this. Of course, the data signal concentration. France and Italy, again, the polar cases, and Germany and UK in the middle. Thanks to the liberalization, storage services has received a price, and again, we have a very huge difference depending. So I don't know what to say that there is a causality between the fact that Italy has a regulated and cost-reflective tariff, and the other countries are going to negotiate the access. So here you see the figures in the share of revenue received so from the tariffs over working gas capacity in two different thermic years. But in principle, we see that negotiated access is more costly. And here we see that Gaz de France is going to intervene twice because, again, as you can also read in our models, in France there is a kind of part of the tariff that is devoted to public service obligations, and this part is regulated, and the other part of the tariff, so the one in which there is third-party access, is negotiated. In the figures, so you also look at the diversity of countries in terms of the number of operators that are important in Germany and which has no counterpart in the other countries. If we look at the difference between 2004 and 2005 and the following year, we see that, for instance, the Italian case, so we have a substantial stability of the tariffs, so it changes by 0.0%. In the other countries, so they have, in general, increased the access revenue. Toward the future, so in fact, probably what is missing in our analysis is a dynamic model. So there is no model in which we endogenize the investment. Still, it is something that we cannot neglect because it's really changing the landscape of the sector. And we see that there is a huge increase in plant capacity. The point I think we are going to address also later on is how long does it take to build this capacity. These are figures from the Gas Storage Europe database, and they mainly represent capacity that is going to be operational in 2012. And so it means that there is a long time led before this is going to really have an impact on gas storage services. But the trend is similar in all the countries towards a huge increase in storage capacity. Incumbents in this game are going to play an important role, and this is also reflected in the way concentration is going to change. For instance, let me signal that in Italy this is going to change by more or less 10%, the concentration, although Stogit is also finally investing a lot, but the competitors are going to enter as well. So we will double the number of, hopefully, of storage operators, so from 2 to 4, but it's important. And the other countries, UK is going also to increase. And notice that in UK we will have a new wave of investment by new entrants only. So Centrica is not going to invest. This is also what they say. We do not need a new RAF. But again, this is something that we are going to discuss. RAF is the historical storage facility in UK. So what we have, this is what it, let me say that it has inspired our work, and it is the empirical counterpart of the analysis, which is theoretical. So we have 4 models, and now what I'm going to do is just to recall the basic background and the main result. The first analysis is devoted to what we call commercial storage. For those who are not familiar with this, it means that it is the market-oriented storage, so the one that in economic models is really represented by the difference in what we can have in the reserves that we have in winter with respect to the summer, and this is mainly due to the fact that during the summer operators are going to expect an increase in price, and then discounting this increase in price by also the relevant cost in terms of physical and also interest rate cost, they are going to store. So this is what economic models have described, so the no arbitrage theory between, so the difference between summer and winter. But as we have already said, this is probably not the reality in storage services in Europe. So what we can expect today is something which is, in the best case, in the middle between something that is market-oriented and probably something else which is determined either by regulation or by other logic that, in fact, will be also explained in the other chapters, so regarding market power. So the chapter is built on the comparison between UK and Germany, and here we have an implicit test of the degree of liberalization of the markets, because as long as we find that there is a true market-oriented way of organizing storage services, we can say that the liberalization and the price signal that we are looking for exist, and also has an impact, a positive impact in organizing storage services. So the analytical framework encompasses the profit maximization of a storage operator that is meant to be competitive. So profits are, as they should be in the theory, function of spot prices and storage cost. And the model has also this important, I think, feature in that it improves on the existing literature because technical constraints are explicitly included in the modelization. So something that was not considered so far in the empirical literature on storage. And as I was saying, the model is going to compare UK and Germany, with in particular the Dötlingen site. The outcome of the model is one of the possible answers, at least, to the main research question, which has been whether storage users in a competitive environment differ in their operation of natural storage capacity when compared to less open environment. And so we have the rules, which are the optimal ones in theory, for the utilization of storage services in terms of injection and withdrawal optimal rates. And then we have the estimation of the model, showing that, in fact, we confirm that we are in the middle of the way, in the sense that Germany is going to differ with respect to the UK, as long as we can identify in the UK the truly liberalized gas market, and Germany is going to, be suboptimal with respect to this usage. So this is, we open with an empirical test, and then we go to theoretical modeling. One of the reasons why there is mainly theoretical modeling in the book is first our preferences, second also because of the lack of data, especially in daily data, so something that is suited to empirical applications, and also the again the main issue, which is the relevant gas price. About storage and market power. So again, a test of how successful is the liberalization. Of course, we are in a context where storage services are in an open access regime, so they should, in principle, have a positive impact on the liquidity of supply. They are going to provide flexibility, and operators should be able to use storage or spot markets in order to optimize their portfolio and their supply. But this is going to raise market power issue, because it is, as in other segments of the gas industry, the fact that we have incumbent operators that own historically the storage facility, of course, questions whether this third-party access is enough to create liberalized or competitive storage services. Since the model is applied to France, the existence of public service obligation is considered in the model, because, again, since in France there is gas is consumed for residential needs, the French legislator has also meant, so one of the objectives was to protect consumers. But on the other side, there are also vertical issues. So if we can summarize in one word, the model that is applied to France is a vertical integration model, so the one that we can find in the typical industrial organization models of vertical relationship. And so we have several considerations exactly on the vertical chain and on the problem of integration of storage services to different kind of different steps, if you want, of the market. So it can be integrated either with the distributors in this model or with the oil and gas companies, so with the upstream market. Whether this corresponds to a real organization of storage services, well, it is not the pure objective of the model to stick completely to the reality, also because we know that this institutional reality of whether we should bundle or unbundle storage services is actually changing. So the model compares different vertical integration patterns by pointing out that storage is an intermediate good. So not only it is something that is open to third-party access, but also serves to obtain gas to the final market. So since it is an intermediate good, there are strategic considerations that can be done by the owners of storage facility. And here we find a specific way of what we call in industrial organization rising rivals cost strategies, in that the fact that having a high gas price obtained through the storage services is going to impede competitors to have an input which is very important to the final market at a fair price. So the results is pointing out when strategic use of storage system may occur. So of course, since it is a modelization, we have hypotheses and conditional results depending on the importance of the hypothesis. So this is going to happen when there is a preemptive access to storage facilities, so a kind of leadership that is per se relevant to the sector. Vertical integration, so no unbundling, as in fact it is prescribed by the directives, or low flexibility degrees of storage facility. Because here, you know, there are also technical constraints. Not all the facilities have the same, what we call deliverability rates, so the fact that they can react to demand of storage services depends also on the geological nature of the facilities itself. So from market power, we go to one of the possible answers to market power, which is regulation. Regulation is the approach that characterizes today the Italian market. So it is not, in this case, I think that the discussion that is provided by this chapter on the relevance of regulation, in particular optimal regulation of access, is well suited to describe also the Italian case. The exercise is also interesting from the theoretical point of view, because it is one of the first cases in which we have optimal regulation in presence of a specific facility that has rather important access capacity constraints. So in the framework, we are going to take into account both productive efficiency of gas suppliers and also locative efficiency. And this is done by setting a dominant firm model. So again, you see with respect to the previous chapter a continuity in the fact that we consider implicitly the role of incumbent in this market, and technological asymmetry, because in fact the incumbent enjoy from some rents due to the fact that they in fact have a huge part of the facilities, and we compare in this chapter regulated versus negotiated access, in particular with a specific way of sharing capacity, which is the auction method. The chapters also offers an interesting debate on whether the storage facilities are an essential facility, because you know that in the competitive economics literature, so about competition, the discipline of the essential facilities is very important, especially to understand the nature of the third-party access. And so the conclusion that is offered by in this chapter is that storage sites are not essential facilities, but de facto they become something which is strategic in the hand of owners of such capacity. Because the distribution of storage facility is heterogeneous, and to build new capacity takes a lot of time. So cost-reflective tariffs are a way to respond to this kind of problem, but of course they are going to distort the efficient capacity allocation, so we have a dynamic problem to solve, which is also typical, something that we find in other industrial organization models. One of the possible remedy is the auction of capacity provided that we are able to support also the auctioning of capacity with specific rationing rules. And the impact of rationing rules, so the way we solve congestion, is also discussed here. The last chapter, so it's about security of supply. I was saying that, so if we have a chance to hear about storage in the newspaper, is exactly when we have a gas crisis. So in this model, we take this opportunity to build up a model in which we describe a typical gas crisis, so a persistent shock that is going to be resorbed in some time, and that is going to be so to involve several countries at the same time, as I was already mentioning in the introduction. So the context of the model is to underline the importance of storage services in the short-medium run. So we are aware that in the future, new infrastructure will be built, not only in storage facilities, but in new transport routes, so diversification of the supply, and LNG terminals, again, they are going to help. But when Russia says tomorrow I will close the flow, well, storage is there. So we believe that is the first instrument that we European countries have to face this kind of crisis. The sector here will be a competitive private sectors, and the fact that the possibility of the crisis is random but is anticipated by storage operators is going to create per se enough incentive to store gas. How we are going to create the optimal strategic reserve and how we are going to build in time is the main point of this contribution, and so optimal withdrawal and also accumulation rules are proposed. The application is the UK, so we have used 2006 UK data to calibrate the model, so it's not I would like to say, as in the first chapter, an empirical model, but a calibration in which, in particular, we describe in a very parsimonious way the UK gas market. We make the shock, which is, for instance, something that in 2006 has been a big problem from the UK when this huge facility, the RAF site has been, has a technical problem, and it has been stopped. At this point in time, they have discovered the importance of also storing in a gas-producing country. There has been a huge debate in the UK in 2006, 2007, and again here we add our own piece of discussion in this debate, saying that the final decision that they have carried out, that is not to duplicate their RAF facilities, so not to build further storage capacity, is something that can be questioned. And especially it can be questioned when storage has, or at least gas market, have, again, something that the government cannot ignore. So, of course, we are in a liberalized market. If there is a gas crisis, in principle, markets should react and have a very high price. But in some case, this cannot be accepted. So there is the possibility of government, or the threat at least of government intervention to help lowering the price. And so this is one of the examples of imperfect policies that are a reaction also to security of supply problems, and we show that the imperfect policies are costly, but the do-nothing strategy is costly as well. And this is the main conclusion that also question those countries who are relaxing their attention on storage for security of supply, and also something that is addressed to the European community. I don't know what will be your opinion and the one of the opinion of Agustin, who is, of course, closer to this arena. But if you look at, and this will be the transition also to Agustin's speech, I think that one of the also something that we are going to debate later on which is the discipline on strategic reserves of gas in the EU, because those who had the patience to read the Green Paper on security of supply, then the new gas directive in 2000, then the security of supply directive in 2004, and then again the energy liberalization package, you see that we have up and down in this legislation about security of supply. First it is important, then it is gas and oil, then again in the new liberalization in the directive of 2000, too costly. And now, under the pressure of the gas crisis, we heard about solidarity rules in sharing the gas reserves to absorb shock. So my final word will be a question. Is there an optimal regulation of strategic reserves, so that we are going to address later on? Thank you for your patience.